What's up, y'all? It's popping in. Steve about to react to this vid by Honest. It's titled "The Weeknd is Losing It." How is he losing it? He been chilling. Well, I heard he has a show, and I was gonna check it out, but I heard it's trash. So I don't know if I want to waste my time if it's not good. But maybe this is what this is about. Let's see how he's losing it. Let's watch.
If you've been on the internet even a little these past few months, you would know the absolute firestorm the HBO Max show The Idol has caused. With some people even going as far to urge people not to watch the show. Personally, I don't care that much, and I think it's silly that people think they have the right to police what other people watch as far as TV shows. At that point, you need to find some new hobbies. Otherwise, the show has been slammed by critics and viewers alike. And while there's been a lot of discourse about the show itself, one thing's for sure is that The Weeknd has been throwing an absolute tantrum over how the show has been received. Going to bat for the show up against publications like the Rolling Stone, and what feels like every single Twitter user in existence. Practically since the show came out, The Weeknd has been on extreme defense mode. This show was supposed to be another chapter for his career, and him fully branching off into acting, as well as the talk of him no longer using the Weeknd character and moniker, and instead going by his birth name, Abel. As someone that has watched an episode or two of the show, I will say that his acting is not very good. In fact, at some moments it's downright terrible. And honestly, I can't recall a time in The Weeknd's career where he was so outwardly bothered by something and so vocal about it. He's usually a very mysterious person that shies away from addressing the media. However, the Idol show has clearly struck a nerve. And I think there are some things to address about The Weeknd's reaction, as well as the widespread reaction to the show. Now, I'm not really interested in dissecting the show or its plotline, but more so the negative impact it seemed to have on The Weeknd. For those of you who don't know, The Idol is a gruesome and sexually graphic show about the dark side of fame as a pop star. Essentially, it has a lot of real-life pop stars such as The Weeknd, Troye Sivan, and Jennie Kim from Blackpink, amongst others, filling in these roles of fame and influence in the music industry. It's fair to say that it's a show that blurs the lines. It's created by Sam Levinson and The Weeknd. For those of you that don't know, Sam also created the show Euphoria. I'm sure they intended for The Idol to captivate the public the way Euphoria did, which is why it's so front-loaded with stars. Except it doesn't have the range or acting abilities. The Idol is hypersexual and explores the dark side of Hollywood, such as cults and sacrifices. There were a lot of memes and discussions that stemmed from the show, the most notable being a snapshot of The Weeknd as his character Tedros saying, "Fucking stretch that tiny little pussy," which caused a frenzy, some calling it cringe, others being shocked. But if you're someone that has followed The Weeknd since the beginning of his career, this type of content shouldn't be shocking at all. The old Weeknd has various out there, sexually graphic, and some would argue discomforting lyrics. The Weeknd has defended his case against scrutiny, claiming that it's supposed to be an uncomfortable show, and his character is supposed to be a terrible person, and that his character doesn't reflect him as an actual person outside of the show. Which is a fair point to make for anyone taking on an acting job. I think a huge part of the reason why this is falling so hard on The Weeknd is because of the blurred lines in the show. It also doesn't help that The Weeknd is online responding to every piece of criticism of the show as if it is a personal attack. So the show features a lot of DNA of the actual artist The Weeknd. The most obvious example of that would be the music. In the show, The Weeknd's character makes music. That music is also released into the real world as The Weeknd, and it has a very similar style to The Weeknd's normal music. Now, this has happened many times with artists and soundtracks, but given The Weeknd's willingness to take on other monikers, it may have been a better idea if he released it under his character's name, kind of like what Miley did with her character in Black Mirror, Ashley O. It at least gives a clear distinction. Unlike The Weeknd's work with The Idol, which seems to be approached as an extension of his work, rather than an offshoot and side job of his work. Not to mention, he also filmed parts of the show at his own concert and his own house, and has some of his friends appear in the show. I'm sure neither The Weeknd or Sam anticipated the amount of backlash and negative reception this show would receive. And while no one should be surprised at The Weeknd being involved with hypersexual and even uncomfortable topics given his history, I do think there's a point to be made about it being a regression for his trajectory, and not the smartest decision to fall into at this point in his career. With his last two albums, After Hours and Dawn FM, The Weeknd showed an incredible amount of promise with his willingness to reinvent himself. The Weeknd has generally followed a common thread of honesty, loneliness, sex, drugs, and relationship issues. But his most recent records cleaned up a lot of his lyrics and themes that he approached at the beginning of his career. At the beginning of his career, he approached those subjects much more unrefined and not as commercially
I miss
viable.
this Weeknd so much.
But he hit his prime with After Hours. He got to do the Super Bowl. And maybe him being involved with something like this at this point seems a bit stale. And with him planning to act the Weeknd character, his involvement in the show comes across as a more extremist visit into old territory. I've already seen a million posts digging up old Weeknd lyrics, and coupled with the blurring of the lines between the real and fictional artists in this show, it's only natural that it has cast some negative PR and perspectives on the Weeknd himself. And him being so thin-skinned about the criticism of the show only helps validate the negative backlash.
Damn, Abel. I definitely don't want to see it. If people hate it that much, it must be terrible. So, do I want to waste my time? Absolutely not. But yeah, I was going to say, I heard the song he has with Future. I downloaded it and I listened to it a few times. And at first I was like, okay, this isn't bad. But I don't know. It got old really quick and I just deleted it. But I am interested in hearing the other music from this soundtrack, though. So I might check it out. But yeah, it's very surprising that he has been so vocal about responding to the criticism, because yeah, he never does that. But maybe that's also because he's usually praised. Like, obviously he's been criticized before, but I feel like for the most part he's used to being praised and people loving his music and, you know, applauding him for his creativity and how his sound is different, and applauding him for taking risk and changing up his style. So he's not used to people in large numbers being like, this is horrible, this is terrible, you're terrible. So I feel like this is probably a shock to him. He'll not handle it. So I was like, damn, are we ever gonna get a new album? What if this really fucks his head up and he start questioning everything? Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, I'm definitely not gonna watch this show. I'm not interested. Anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think. Let me know what other videos you want me to watch, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.